Hello, my name is Terry Olszewski, and I'm Superintendent of Garfield Heights City Schools. Welcome to another edition of Open Line on Air, a production for our community that should help you to remain connected to the school district. Today, I'm joined by our principal at William Foster, Mrs. Sandy Powers. Welcome, Mrs. Powers. And today we're going to spend some time talking specifically about some of the recent successes at your school building. But before we begin, I want to take a moment to share a little bit about myself. As the incoming superintendent, for those of you who may not know me, although I was appointed to the superintendent's role effective August 1st, 2012, I'm no stranger to the school district. Many of you know me as a former high school principal, a position that I served in for the previous 8 years. Prior to that, where I originally began in the district, I served as principal of Garfield Heights Middle School. Prior to coming to Garfield Heights in the late 1990s, I served as classroom teacher and administrator in the Cleveland Public Schools. I served at every level in the public education chain. I plan to use this near 30 years of experience to help continue the high level of academic excellence to the Garfield Heights City Schools. And that's why we have Mrs. Powers here today to speak directly to her building successes. Thank you, Mrs. Powers. First and foremost, congratulations on your second consecutive year of being rated excellent by the Ohio Department of Education. What was your reaction when you learned that you had earned this distinction for the second consecutive year?
My first reaction when I got the email that had all my data, I looked through all of it and it was yes. But also I was really confident going into the spring test because 60% of our students passed the fall OAA. So I knew the teachers in K through 2 did their job to prepare the students for 3rd grade. And then I have the utmost confidence in my 3rd grade teachers because I know how deliberately they work to ensure that every child meets their potential and many, many times exceeds that.
What exactly does the designation mean, Mrs. Powers?
That tells me that the practices and the protocols that we have established at William Foster are working.
What can you share with the viewers at home what the rating system is and what it means for the various school buildings?
Schools are rated by their indicators, and in 3rd grade the indicators would be the reading test and the math test. And then they're also rolled into the rating is the performance indicator. The performance indicator are the levels of scoring, and that starts at advanced, then there's accelerated, proficient, basic, and limited. So within those, the state gives you a weighted grade for each one of those. So when you look at William Foster, we made our indicator of reading. Over 80% of our students passed the reading test. We made our indicator of math. Over 83% of our students passed the math test. And then over 100 students scored in the top advanced and accelerated range. So that meant our performance indicator went up to almost 100, 98.8. So we hit all 3 of those pretty hard.
That's awesome. So you place your students on a regular, well-disciplined measurement schedule, correct?
Yes.
Could you share what happens by way of measuring the students throughout the school year?
Absolutely. Every student in the fall is assessed through our AIMS benchmarking. After they're assessed, then we look at their scores, every child, and we decide what the appropriate intervention, the intensity of that intervention that child needs, or possibly it's enrichment. And those students are then placed into small groups according to what their needs are. And we run those groups for at least 9 weeks. And along the way, then we're taking snapshots of how that student is doing. We call that progress monitoring. And then again in the winter we have another benchmark. So we measure where that student is progressing and compare to where they were in the fall. But in between there, the teachers are giving their own common assessments as well as the formative assessments to guide their teaching. And then at the end of the year, once again, every student in the building is given that benchmark. So we can chart the growth and we can also see the growth that we were able to add to each student for that entire year.
So take us to test day for our third graders.
Take us to test day. All right. The first thing that I would expect my third graders to come in with on test day is their attitude. Every day we talk about bringing that sure I can attitude to learn. So that's the first thing I'd want them to bring in when they come to the test. Also,
first and foremost, that they show up.
Well, absolutely, that they show up.
Attendance is important.
Attendance is important, and on time, so we can get the test start on time. But then they have to bring that attitude to learn. And also I would expect each one of them to bring their toolkit. And their toolkit are all the strategies that they've been taught by their teacher. And now it's the time you get to show what you know. Open that toolkit and show us what you can do.
So what things do you expect that these students will be applying when they take the test?
I would expect them with the reading portion, I would expect them to apply all the strategies that they've been taught in the classroom during the D5. Last year, we incorporated a new framework for language arts, and we put an emphasis on reading, and within that reading, we also teach specific strategies for informational text, for literary text, so they are armed when they attack a test. They know exactly how to take that test and how to answer those questions. So I would expect them to take all those things that they've learned in the classroom, that they've worked on all year, and then apply those to the test.
You mentioned D5. Explain D5 because it's a district initiative.
Okay, D5 is the Daily 5. The Daily 5 is a language arts structure, and in the Daily 5 we teach the students how to build stamina, and that is reading to yourself, because we know what research says about how much time they need to practice that reading. So there are specific things that we teach them on what they need to do when they're reading to themselves. And that also is applying those strategies, whether it's go back and reread it, back up, recheck. It might be something that they've learned how to attack vocabulary. All those we teach one-on-one, and this is your specific thing that you need to do. So when the child goes off to read independently, then they use that strategy. In D5, we also have an emphasis on writing, and that writing is yoked right to their reading. So we write formally and informally, and the formal writing is a process that we take them to where it starts with generating their ideas and then writing the rough draft and going back and editing all the way till they publish. Also within the Daily 5, we do what's called eking, and that's a partner read. And we teach the children to read elbow to elbow, knee to knee. And we also give them very specific language that when a student comes to something that they don't know, then it's your job as that partner to ask them, do you need coaching or do you need more time? And then the last thing in the D5 would be the word work, where we're attacking vocabulary.
So what sorts of educational training and exercises are being done at grades K to 2 in order to prepare them for the third grade test, besides the D5?
Right. Last year we did the D5. Over the summer this year, the teachers participated in professional development with the CAFE, and the CAFE supports what we did with the D5, and CAFE is comprehension, accuracy in reading, fluency, and also expanded vocabulary. So now the teachers have another toolkit to take in when they sit with a student one-on-one and they do those conferences, that now it's much more meaningful for that student. And the biggest thing is that we want to transfer the ownership onto the student. So now the student is clearly has ownership in the whole learning process. Also with the teachers, this year we have embedded professional development with FIP, Formative Instructional Practices, and that's something that we're working with the state with, and we have a FIP team in our building as well as the other buildings. The FIP team is trained by the state, and then the FIP team comes back and teaches the teacher. So it's a teach the teacher model, and that's all the formative instructional practices that research says improve student achievement.
Anything else about the excellent rating that you'd like to share with our viewers at home?
The excellent rating is not just from the third grade test. everybody that works at William Foster takes part in that excellent rating, because it takes all of us to ensure that the building runs efficiently and effectively, and that we maintain a safe, secure environment that is conducive for those kids to learn. So everybody that works at William Foster shares in that excellent rating.
So can you share anything else that's exciting that's going on at William Foster?
Sure, I can. At William Foster, it's exciting every day, but specifically we have a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, where there's folks from the Chamber of Commerce coming every Wednesday to read with the kindergartners. We also have a partnership with Phoenix University and Scholastic, where later this month we will have a book fair, and the employees from Phoenix are coming down to work with our parents and kids on making books.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Powers, for a great time together. Congratulations once again on earning the excellent rating.
Thank you.
And stay tuned for another edition of Open Line on Air. Thank you.